Can you load YouTube and see if you see us there?
Yep, I do.
Ah, okay. Ah, cool. Okay. All right, so we are live, and now, well, YouTube live. Let's go into it's just easier. Okay, and we're live on.
Awesome. I will get that to the whole team. And we'll wait for the masses. Awesome.
Yep. So anyone logging in, just bear with us a minute or two. We're just gonna get a warm up, and then we'll get cooking.
Yeah, looking forward to watching that video again. It's been a hot minute since I've seen it myself. So our new language, our new wording applied to that video is just such an exciting thing to go over.
Yeah, it was a great video. Could always do a voiceover and update it if we ever wanted to. But just doesn't have our newest language, but it has a pretty good vision of how we envision the future.
Welcome, Carrie. We're going to give it a couple more minutes, let other people join us. But we got a great episode for you today.
Yeah, we'll start at the 35 marker.
Perfect. Appreciate your effort to balance dinner and this live, Carrie. That means a lot to us. Yeah, we'll get rocking and rolling at the 35 marker. But yeah, we're live on TikTok and YouTube, so feel free to jump on in the chat, and we'll be excited to get started in about a minute. Hello, Cowboy Rizzler. That's a that's a great name. We'll get started in a couple, I guess, seconds soon at the 35 marker. But welcome to the chat.
Welcome.
All right, cool. Let's get this train rocking and rolling. Welcome to anyone watching us on our TikTok live or our YouTube live or Fink Future Coalition. And at Fink, we recognize that democracy of today feels really out of touch, inaccessible, and is simply unrepresentative. So think of Fink as your civic utility company. And what does a utility company even do, right? It connects people on a shared system and runs on shared standards, right? The electricity in my house is the same as my neighbor's house, right? So that kind of equal footing of accessibility. And that's exactly what Fink is doing for democracy. We're building a system where we plug in everyone into a fair, citizen-led system. What does that mean? It means that every candidate is seen, every citizen heard, and every journalist is free to speak. How are we going to do that? Well, we're putting every candidate on equal footing, lowering the barriers for grassroots voices, and streamlining the democratic process. So less waste, more representation, and built-in accountability And we do that with these shared standards that keep leaders answerable to the people, right? Me, you, your grandma, your best friend, while also reducing the sway of money. So that's a broad overview of what we're doing at Think. So as we dive deeper into today's episode, just before we go too deep, just a friendly reminder that it always is very helpful if you tap the screen, tap the heart, jump into the chat. We want to hear your questions, your concerns, what you think about our mission. We're really excited to talk to the general public. And remember to hit that follow button. That is just so vital to a growing organization like us. We're on that road to 1,000, over halfway there. And thank you to all who have hit that subscribe button. That really helps. So today, the meat and potatoes, we're going to be walking through a short video, but talking about what a democracy that actually serves the people, what would that look like? What changes are needed for that? So if you have browsed our social media or joined us in a live, you've heard some of Fink's solutions, but what would that actually mean in the real world? And with that, I will pass it to Travis.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll get started with the video, and then we're going to talk about how we envision the future of democracy, what an ideal democracy would look like. And we're doing it in a way that it's like what most America wants. We're not here to say like the specific stances of policy issues. It's really about representation. What would the ideal system of democracy look like that truly represents most people, holds government accountable, overcomes the influence of money in politics. So that's really what we're all about. We're not here to take sides on democracy. We're here to make sure America is being represented, because you're not being represented right now, no matter who you are. We'll watch the video real quick, and then we'll talk about it. So and we shall begin. Let me know if you don't hear the audio when this gets started. Yeah.
Digital politics is becoming the norm. It puts people back in the driver's seat and redefines our political system. Imagine a Congress filled with politicians from multiple parties, working together for all Americans. Your trusted neighbor, mentor, or friend is running, with your support and without the influence of corporate money or agendas. Politicians no longer have to spend all their time dialing for dollars and can focus on representing their communities instead. Discover Digital Democracy, or DD, a platform truly owned by the people, for the people, empowering them to take charge of democracy. DD ensures all candidates from every party are given equal opportunities to present their ideas, winning support through integrity and merit, not wealth or influence. Compare and evaluate candidates with simple report cards and community discussions. See where their funding comes from, track their campaign promises, and identify conflicts of interest. Experience true transparency and accountability, ensuring every candidate, no matter who they are, actually represents their voters. Plus, engage directly with politicians in real time, fostering meaningful conversations. You can even propose your own policy ideas, shaping reforms at the local, state, or national levels. To complete the process, make your voice heard by participating in open primaries through debates, town halls, and forums that drive true democratic change. The age-old system where only the elite hold power is finally being torn down. We're here to empower citizens. Let's fight to remove big money and corporate influence from politics and elect better leaders who will genuinely listen and act with their voters in mind. Join us today in making history with digital democracy and digital politics. Together, we will turn this vision into a reality and build a democracy that truly represents every citizen. A new era of democracy starts with you. Together, we can build a better tomorrow.
Cool. Yeah. So that's, obviously looking at that like some people just like, well, how do you get there? It's one thing to show what the end result would be, but how do we get there? That's not something we're gonna go over some of it in this episode, but it's a lot of details to get there. That's quite a dream to reach, but we have a full outline exactly on what we want to do, how we get there over time, and so we'll break down some of what that would look like. So some of the highlights in the video that we just watched, starting with like one of the key things on it is equal discovery. So envision if every candidate was connected into the same democracy infrastructure, then and showcasing all the politicians equally, that right there, just that change would have such a profound impact in the way the system works today. Because if you think about it, from the dawn of democracy, these politicians have to raise so much money, but the question is, why do they have to raise so much money? Well, they have to raise it because they're advertising themselves. They have to spend this money so that they exist, so that when you go to the voting booth, you go, oh yeah, that's the person I wanted to vote for. So when push comes to shove, the millions of dollars that it became, it used to be a lot cheaper than it is today, but the races just get more and more expensive as floods of money came into play. And in some ways, it's almost that simple, that if you showcase all politicians, you have one place where that you can see all the candidates, exactly, who's there, who's funding their campaign, where's the money coming from, where are the conflicts of interest of that money. Like I always bring up, if you care about healthcare, regardless of where you are, left, right, or whatever, don't vote for somebody that takes millions of dollars from private health insurance, because that's going to be a conflict of interest. If they're going to, they're not going to fix your healthcare if private pharma is giving them millions of dollars. So we want to build a system where all candidates are showcased. You see who's funding their campaigns. You see how their consistency and promises. Do they deliver their promises once in office? So just that one change alone would make a significant difference. And the crazy thing on it is that what we're talking about is actually cheaper, more efficient, easier than the current system. If you have one system that shows all the candidates and then you advertise democracy instead of advertising candidate A, B, C, D, all like thousands of candidates, each one having to sell themselves individually is very expensive. But if you have one system that advertises a system, and then you put your zip code in, oh, this is your district, these are who's running in the local race, this is who's running in your state race, and this is the federal race. Like, it's not that hard, and the technology exists. The technology has been tried, it just people don't know it's existed before. So that's where we're connecting the tech that already has existed with a movement or meta movement, a movement of movements, and then the other factors that we're going to get into in this episode. That's just one layer of it, is to showcase all the candidates equally. So I'll pause right there, give it to Liz to reflect on, and then we'll keep going.
Yeah, so whenever we talk to people and we say showcasing all candidates equally, like the language of just more layers, it seems to be this uphill battle of how are you going to do that? Doesn't that cost more money? Gosh, that's so lofty. But what Travis said there, we like the ability to showcase candidates equally. This one measure literally costs less, it's much easier, and it's much more reflective of the voting bases, right? I don't know if you guys looked at the numbers lately, but Democrats and Republicans, as the only two people on the debate stage, people aren't really happy with that choice. So if it was easier to find people running in your area, find where they're having these debates, and to hear the perspectives outside of the establishment. And I know this is only one layer, but it's just such a almost a dream come true of the 21st century meeting democracy. And I just would love to hear other people's thoughts or concerns that, adding this new layer, we're saying it's more effective, it's more, you can find people better, costs less money, and just makes more sense. But I think it's so hard to get people out of the entrenched routine of democracy that we have today. And so, yeah, with that, I'll pass it back to Travis.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Like Isaac wrote in there, yeah, people are waking up that the system is broken, that it's really neither side is on people's side. Like people are thinking like, oh, but Trump is so bad. Trump is so bad. Let's not shake up the Democratic Party. It's like, I'm sorry to say it's already shaken. They're the least popular they've been in modern history right now. They're losing people in droves. This is the for the first time in modern history, there's more independents and third parties than there are any one of the Democrat or Republican Party right now. Democrats are the least popular in modern history as well in themselves. All the stats are showing that people are leaving, and they're just fed up with the two-party system. I mean, it just does not work. It does not represent you, and we shouldn't be stuck in two boxes. So anyway, so the equal discovery and showcasing candidates, that's a huge part of the battle, because again, immediately, if you have all the candidates in front of you and it's not about, oh, well, I'm going to win because I have more billboards and I have more commercials. That's not what should make you be able to win. You should win because you're a civil servant, because you represent the people and that you fulfill your promises. So, right there, that's one of the biggest things. I'm not sure what you mean if as in it's all one party. I mean, originally, when the system was founded, they didn't want a party system. They certainly didn't want a two-party system. They warned that the worst scenario would be two parties vehemently opposed to one another, would literally be like the decline of democracy. So they didn't prevent it from being able to happen, but they did not want they didn't want parties to come into the system. But I don't know exactly the timeline. It was a couple decades, or within a couple decades to 100 years, the party system began. But yeah, and then so it's just that's unfair. And then just the party system in itself, both parties are privately owned, but democracy is supposed to be a public thing. So why are private entities being able to make these choices for us? So just it's if it wasn't stuck in a two-party system, it'd be a little bit different. But the fact that we only have these two choices, essentially, based on the electoral college and just the way the infrastructure is today, it shouldn't be up to two private entities to make your choices, because you don't have a third choice. It's just these two power machines, establishment machines. Go ahead, Liz, do you want to say something?
Yeah, actually, well, I just wanted for you to go into something deeper about when we talk about the two-party system, we're also talking about the concentration of power and the access to get in front of a voter. So it's not just limited to who you can literally check off. It's access to networking, it's access to I guess literally the debate stage, but it's also about just the concentration of power that the two-party system has, the chokehold on democracy that it has. So if you can go a little deeper into that, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. So and also to address what Isaac is saying there. So yeah, nowadays, billboards, ads, and stuff is not as influential as it used to be. Literally only since the digital age. It's only changed in the last 10 years. But it's still I don't have the exact statistic in front of me, but it's something like 90 to 95% of people who win, it's based on name recognition alone and nothing else. I can't say nothing else, but the person that's the most well known is almost always the candidate that wins. So that's expensive so they're buying name recognition. So the right candidate could be right in front of you, but because they don't have the money to buy a name for themselves and the establishment shoving it down your throat, they're not going to win. And to touch the other point that he said there is, he's saying that technically he's right. We're not technically in a two-party system. Yes, there's different choices, but we're manipulated into a false choice. I mean, both parties manipulate you, shame you if you're voting third party. Like, I mean, first of all, it's a chicken or the egg, so right now 63% of Americans want a third party to be viable. But but when a third party is running and like they only get 3 to 5% of the vote, it's not because America doesn't want them to win, it's because they can't win. So there's this vicious cycle. Well, I don't want to waste my vote. There's no, third party never wins, so why would I waste my vote? Of course I'd rather get this other candidate, but I don't want to waste my vote because you're stuck in the lesser two evils. If I vote the one I really want, then the worst, then it's more likely the worst one that I don't want I want the least is going to end up winning, and that's a fact. That's a statistical fact. That's what traps millions and millions of people, is that we are trapped into a two-party system. So it's not by design; it's by manipulation. It's not by legislative design, it's by political design. The mainstream media shoves it down your throat. You could ask independent and third party candidates all the time. They're not allowed in debates most of the time. They're not even acknowledged as candidates. If they ever do mention a third party independent, the news anchor will be like, oh yeah, this crazy person thinks they're going to stand a chance, and like they're gonna poo-poo them, and they're gonna make sure that when you're introduced to this person that they're already lost their legitimacy. So that's why we're trapped in a two-party system. It's not by legal structure. It's by manipulation and the system of influence. I mean, that's what all this boils down to, is influence. It boils down to getting people on the same page of like some of what's going on, but also who's viable. Virtually no one's going to vote for somebody that's not viable. You're going to vote for somebody that stands a chance to win, not the person you care about the most. And that, again, that's a fact. So that there is that nuance that it's not technically by legally that there are other parties, but there's so many unfair advantages. But so anyway, another part of the video is about streamlining the participation process and making it easier for Americans. Especially right now, trust is at an all-time low. Trust in government, trust in politicians, and trust in media is in an all-time low, literally like lowest in modern history. And people talk about it all the time. So it's hard to decide like who should I vote for. What are the differences, other than like, most people, they're going to vote party lines because they don't know enough about the other details. Whenever I get involved in the primaries, it's complicated. It's hard to know, who's bought out versus the other ones, who's more consistent in their promises. I mean, hell, you don't even know what their policy stances are. Neither side, for the most part, even have like, Democrats say, oh, better healthcare, better this, better that. And, so both sides have their like, they do the runaround. I mean, that's politics today is beating around the bush so you could get people that think they know, they think you're giving them what they want, but they're not. So what we want to do is streamline the democratic process to improve the systems. Sorry, just distracted by what does what mean? We want to be able to streamline it. Like people should not, like politics should not be a second job for people. And so some of us, like myself and a lot of people on our team, are political enthusiasts, but the average American, they don't have time to do deep research and know exactly what's going on, which media should I trust, which politicians should I trust, and again, like the mainstream media specifically is lying more than ever on both sides. So it's like, where do you get the truth? Where do you figure out where to know? And again, people have 2 jobs, 3 jobs. Like people are suffering right now. They don't have time to like look up politics. And then especially when, the feeling is that my vote doesn't really matter. The economy keeps getting worse in the last couple decades, regardless of which party's in office. And, my life, just the economy keeps getting worse. Like everything just is breaking down regardless of which candidate's in office. And that is another statistical, like look at, median wages are going down, middle class is shrinking, representation is shrinking, money in politics is increasing. It's all there, and it's not one party's fault. It's both. It's all of it. It's by design. So part of what we're talking about, some of it's technology, streamlining this process, and that's what we call digital democracy, having a one-stop shop for this information to just make it easier for an average American to just spend a few minutes to know what's going on without having to like spend hours and hours, day in and day out. We want it to be the goal in the long run is something where it'd be like, even if somebody doesn't even want to, just only wants to pay attention during election time, like if we could even get it down to like 1 to 2 hours worth of your time per election to like have a clear idea of who you should vote for, would be incredible for a lot of people. Some of us are going to do it way more than that, but like at the bare minimum, somebody that does not care about politics at all, but wants to vote for the right person, 1 to 2 hours per election. That's not even once a year, less than once a year. So that would be the ultimate goal, to streamline it and help, there'll be like a candidate matchmaker. This is where I stand on policies. And then they'll say, hey, this candidate's an 80% match. This person's a 70% match, so on and so forth. So that would be the voter path to simplified infrastructure. So that's a bit of that. I'm gonna pass it to you, Liz, and then want to say a comment and then also do a reset too.
Absolutely. So for my comment, it's like, I'm 36. I have voted in my fair share of elections. I'm a pretty literate gal. But gosh, politics is hard. It's hard to understand legislation. It's hard to find the information. It's hard to find, hard to understand, and it's hard to even kind of verify that truth factor of, is this place I'm getting this information even reputable, right? And all of that falls on us, the voter. And I know that it's kind of soured my taste for engagement, and I think that's really hindered a lot of the nation of being excited about elections or hopeful about elections, right? If the language and the access is so uphill, where is the relief? Where is the ease? Where is the ability to connect to this information and make it easy to understand? And so I like to go back whenever we talk about digital democracy. I like to just say, gosh, if there's a system that makes it easy to understand and it has that trust factor, and like Travis said, 1 to 2 hours of an election cycle, if all of that were possible, that's so great, and we have the plan for that. But where is that today, right? Where is the ease? Where is the trust? Where is the consolidated space to find that information? And I just want people to reflect on that for a second. But yeah, let me reset it because I see a lot of great people coming in. So welcome. We are Fink, Future is Now Coalition. We are streaming live right now on TikTok and YouTube. And as Fink, think of us as your civic utility company, right? A shared standard and shared accessibility across one system that makes democracy fair, simple, and accountable. We are building a system where less waste is had, more representation is achievable, and there's built-in accountability. So shared standards that keep leaders, right, the people we give power to, answerable to us, while also reducing the big sway of money that just keeps us, on the lower totem pole of representation. So if you guys are just joining us, welcome. Friendly reminder to hit the heart button, comment in the chat. We love chatting with you guys. And remember to hit subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000. We're over halfway there. We're picking up numbers, but every subscription really helps us as a young developing organization. And today we're talking about, gosh, what if democracy was easy? What if it was just more accessible to have your vote represented, but then also you are able to choose who actually represents you rather than being pigeonholed into the false dichotomy, the false option of just a two-party system. So welcome, and with that, I will pass it back to Travis.
Okay. Yeah, so continuing on of like what this ultimate democracy would look like on basically we're talking about like what the world would look like if our mission succeeds in like 10, 15, 20 years. So other than streamlining the democratic process, showcasing all candidates equally, that also the showcasing equally plugs into money out guardrails. For one, showcasing them gives them a voice so they don't have to spend the millions like we talked about. But not only would it lift up the grassroots candidates that deserve your vote, it'll actually be a detractor to the bad ones. So for example, when an establishment candidate is running against a grassroots candidate, what you will find almost every time is, first is the conflicts of interest. So this system is going to showcase, it's going to highlight the conflicts. So like I was saying earlier, if you care about healthcare, don't vote for somebody that takes millions of dollars from the healthcare industry. If you care about the environment, don't vote for somebody that's like taking money from big oil, for example. And it works any side of the fence. It's not just left or right. It's like just whatever policy you care about, don't vote for somebody that the money is going to influence them against your own interests. Because the corporations that are giving them money, they're doing it specifically to not be regulated. Like that's why they're giving them money, is to not do their job, not to represent you, not to regulate them, to get them regulated. So the system would be a guardrail for that, because it'll highlight, it'll make it easier for the average American to know where the conflicts are. And so if you do care about XYZ, it's going to say, hey, you mentioned you care about this. Well, look at the money they're taking over here. That might be a conflict of interest, and it's still going to be up to you to decide if that's valid or not. That's not going to be, we just want to connect what you care about to what the facts show. And, it doesn't matter if I personally disagree with you. It's about what you care about, and let's find you somebody that's actually going to represent you, even if I don't believe in what you believe in, and vice versa. So the guardrails would be like that. Conflicts of interest, also showing the consistency in promises. You'll find that grassroots candidates, they could fight for their promises. They have the they're not bribed to lie to you and then appeal to their big donors, because they don't have big donors. See, the beauty of a grassroots candidate and that's only taking money from average voters is like, that's kind of democracy. It's like it's almost like that. It's like all voters are bribing them instead of 1% of people bribing them. So, it's still like not perfect. Ideally we want no money in politics maybe one day, but that's a pipe dream. But I'd rather it be that everyone equally is bribing them to be like, oh, I need to get most people happy because most people are funding my campaign, rather than, oh, this 1% of people are funding me, so that's all I have to care about. So these things are going to show, basically what we're showcasing would both lift the grassroots candidates, the good candidates that deserve your vote, that actually want to represent you, that see themselves as a civil servant, and dissuade and show the skeletons in the establishment candidates closet. And that is a huge influence that would, really start turning things around. Go ahead, Liz.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of verbalize the ease that we're talking about. So one shared digital space, right? So AKA you log in to somewhere, digital democracy is what we're calling that. So you can type in your zip code, see who's running, tell the digital democracy what matters to you, and find if those candidates running are similar to you in their views, similar to you in who they take money from, right? All these conflicts of interest or alignments. But something else that's easy is, gosh, this one shared system, this digital democracy, also allows candidates better access to you and you to them. So I just wanted to verbalize all of this connective ease that we're talking about. Gosh, you don't have to wait 3 months to go to a town hall meeting that's also during your lunch break. That, and that's fine to do. What we're talking about, gosh, it's 2025, right? We've been to the moon, we're trying to go to Mars. Why can't democracy be upgraded? Why can't it just be accessible to all of us? It's such an archaic method in a lot of ways. And what we're saying is it should be easier. You should understand it better, and it should allow more voices to the table, because that's democracy. It's not a Fink saying vote this way, vote that way. It's saying, shouldn't the process of democracy be easier, be better understood, and be more accessible for voters, but also quality candidates that in a regular system of today would be shut out because of the establishment. So I just wanted to verbalize that kind of understanding of the ease we're talking about. Back to you, Travis.
Yeah, but great point about like it is mutually beneficial. Like Liz is saying. The establishment people, the ones that have the most money and don't want competition, are not going to like it. But there's millions of politicians that would absolutely love this. And we've dabbled. Most of the partners we have so far, political organizations, movements, and the citizens, a little bit independent media, a little less on the politician side yet. We're not ready to jump to that level, but we have a handful, and they agree that this would be so much easier. Right now, for a grassroots candidate, they have to build a volunteer crew that goes door to door. They have to hand out flyers. A lot of it is slowly moving over to social media. That's a big part of what we want to help with is building amplification over social media. A genuine candidate that actually wants to represent you, this would be a dream come true. We want to connect every candidate and every candidate, every citizen into one infrastructure. So it streamlines the process for everyone. I mean, right now, this is another statistic I should end up having at my fingertip, but something most of a politician's time is not legislating, not talking to citizens. It's dialing for dollars is their number one. The most time they take is dialing for dollars. And for those in office, it's not dialing for your $5. No, it's calling a CEO and asking for $20,000. They're not going to call you for $5, unfortunately. But so most of a politician's time is working on their next election. I mean, the House of Representatives, especially, they have to run every 2 years. They're running again. So immediately you get elected and right away you have to work on your next election, especially how these days, elections go at least a year in America. They didn't used to. It used to be a handful of months. In other countries, it's much shorter. Varies country by country. But we have one of the longest election processes, which ends up expensive. But anyway, so all this stuff that we're talking about, streamlining and centralized communication, that is so key to help both sides of the fence, the good people on the sides, bringing us closer to representation. But just to summarize this section about what the future would look like in 10 years under all this. Definitely not two parties, but we really want America to be able to decide, should there be multiple parties? Maybe there should be no parties. Maybe there's a 4-quadrant system. Everyone checks a box. Every politician fits where do they stand fiscally? Where do they stand socially? And that's how they identify, so it's still simple. So the beauty of what we're doing is that we're building the infrastructure so that you decide as citizens. It's not up to it's not up to us. We want it to be up to you guys. We just want to build an infrastructure that it is up to America, because right now the system is built by those already in power, and that's not how a healthy system works. We need to hold them accountable, and that's been deteriorating over the last couple decades. Once they're in office, they make it a little harder to get out of office. They make it a little every election. There's a little bit of laws and legislative changes and whatnot that shifts it more in their favor. And, you know, because they don't want to have competition. Maybe they're not even thinking of it in a corrupt way. They're just thinking, well, I'm a good politician, and I don't want to lose my seat, so I'm going to make it harder for me to get out of my seat. So they push it in their favor. You know, so whatever the motivation is, it's not democratic. But so we want you guys to be able to make the decisions here, and that's what we're calling digital politics. Is the idea of like, not just talking about policy stances, because America, we can fight forever on policy stances, what to do about healthcare, what to do about social issues, especially what to do about X, Y, and Z. We're, especially in this climate right now, we're not going to agree on things. America's too divided there. However, the place that we are not divided is infrastructure, the structure of representation. What should democracy look like? How should people be elected? Like, how should a citizen know who they want to vote for? You know, money out of politics, getting rid of insider trading in Washington. You know, there's so many topics that most America agrees on. Like the mission that we've built at Think is all based on what 75-80% of America wants. And so, you know, the beauty that makes, one of the things that makes us radically different from really anyone else is that we're building something that it doesn't matter if you're left, you're right, you're third party, you're independent. It works for virtually everyone. The only ones it doesn't work for is the ones that are already that 1% concentration of power. So that's so we want to put the power in your hands of like, well, there should be more parties or no parties, or, you know, maybe somebody has an amazing idea out there and just it's never gonna take shape because they can't, you know, spend $1 billion to bribe people to go that way. Or even if it is great, even if they had the money, it would also, it's all about power. If it's gonna threaten those already in power, they're not gonna push for it. So, you know, things like multiple parties, ranked choice voting, other flexible methods, those are things that we want America to be able to decide. We want, you know, it should be about the consensus and what do most America want, and America should get what they want in that regard. Go ahead, Liz.
Yeah, so a big part of the origin of Think is, you know, en masse, coast to coast, we as voters are being unrepresented, even when we agree 75, 80, 90% of things, unless it also functions within the establishment's preordained power, it does not see the light of day in the halls of Congress. But B, so A is, you know, representation that is not happening, and B is the views and the positions and the ideas, the opportunity to engage in democracy and put your 2 cents forward has no place in the current system. So unless you only vote for establishment candidates and just are so in love with how democracy is today, there is no home for you to be anything else right now. What Think is saying is, like Travis was saying, different ideas for how democracy should work and different areas where we do align. Those ideas deserve to take root and deserve to be represented in the real numbers of how interconnected we are as people, right? It's so easy to divide us and by party and have this tribalistic, I'm this, you're that, therefore we're completely separate. Where's the opportunity for alignment in today's system? Where's the opportunity for an idea to gain momentum that challenges maybe this current system in any way? And I'm not even talking about like, you know, overthrow the government. I'm saying simple things like ranked choice voting, election reform, you know, simple things like that a lot of us have very deep and serious opinions about, but where is it able to take roots in the broken system of today? So really it's about reflecting America's positions, America's ideas, America's ideals, and building the infrastructure that both allows that to take root, but also allows the alignment for ideals and policy to actually move that needle of progress. But yeah, back to you, Travis.
Cool. Yeah, that's all well said. I like that. Yep. So just trying to finish the last segment on that. So the last part of like what we're envisioning in the long term is relating to media as well. You know, when we're looking at this mission, how we want to like help upgrade democracy in a way, in such a fundamental way, and in a way that most America agrees with. Again, left, right, third party. Like the more you understand what we're doing, it's what you want. Most people are going to want what we're offering here. But a key to that, you know, we always talk about the citizens, politicians, political organizations like movements, nonprofits, and then the fourth category is independent media, journalists. And so, you know, media is a huge part of political influence. They shape what we see as reality, the news that we understand of what's happening today, both politically and just in current events. And right now, the establishment news, that's a huge influence and manipulation to bring us back to those false two choices. And, you know, so our solution there is that there's, you know, there's thousands, maybe even millions of independent media now, that, you know, no one's going to be perfect. We're all human. Nothing's going to be perfect, but they're at least trying to give you the honest truth, where the mainstream media is selling you a narrative. Like the mainstream media, like, for example, six media companies own 90% of TV media that's on TV today. They're not selling you they're not giving you the truth. They're selling you what their advertisers want them to sell you, what their political interests are telling them. Like it's whoever's giving them their money, they're selling a narrative to you, and that's what we're getting. And like, yeah, there's a partisan divide in some of the narrative, but it's always pro corporate, it's always pro status quo. It's always like, oh, America's happy enough. Yeah, things, you know, inflation, we'll just whisper inflation, but yeah, no, everything's great and people are happy. No, none of the facts, none of the evidence says that. Like, people are suffering right now. You know, diseases of despair at an all-time high. Wages are lowest one of the lowest in modern history, accounted for after you add the inflation. You know, it could go on and on about like how things are getting worse. And again, regardless of a Democrat or Republicans are in office, it's getting worse. That's why we're in this mess of like, you know, some people are calling Trump a fascist. It's like, well, look at virtually every time ever in history, every time a fascist has gotten power, it's from a state of desperation by America. So if you believe that that's what's going on, fascism, then that's why that ties it together there. So to finish off this segment, independent media is a big piece. So we're part of this infrastructure that we're talking about, this one-stop shop, digital democracy, is connecting independent media into this system. So every candidate seen, every citizen heard, and every journalist free to speak in one bigger system. I mean, it's basically like, it's like almost like having an elaborate version of like a Facebook or TikTok, but it's officially owned by America. It's going to be citizen owned. That's the other thing. Every American is going to be able to opt into an equal ownership stake of this platform. You don't have to buy anything, you just opt in. So everyone's going to own this system, but it's like owning like a tech platform where every candidate's in there, every politician, every journalist, every citizen, the digital embodiment of America's democracy. So that's the tech side of it. And then there's the other side of it's digital politics, the way to look at the rigged patterns of today and say, hey, the system isn't working. Stop, like, throw away your old Democrat or Republican talking points, the stuff that we've been debating for decades. It's not working. Things are not working. You know, when somebody's saying, oh, we should vote for a third party or independent. So, well, no, you're going to divide the left's vote. The left's already divided. The Democrats are less popular today than a year ago. So it's not like this, oh, we're not Trump, vote for us is gaining their popularity. No, it's not at all. People are sick of it. It's been 13 years of, hey, we are not Trump. That's what we stand for, is not Trump. What's your vision, Democrats? Not being Trump is our vision. Yay. Let's vote for not Trump. Like, no, that's not gonna move the needle. Not when people are suffering these days. So anyway, so just to finish up on this piece, so digital politics is a new way of looking at it. It's judging these people from up versus down, in addition to left versus right. So it's not like, oh, they're Democrat, they're Republican, so I'm going to vote D down the line, R down the line. It's like, well, look at up versus down. Who are they beholden to? Are they beholden to their big donors, to power, to getting richer? Or are they beholden to their voters and they're a civil servant and they want to have a legacy as a great politician? That's the people you want to vote. It's about their intention. Do they have intentions to make most people's lives better, or is their intention to just gain power, gain money, and yada yada? So that's digital politics. You add it with digital democracy, and we're building a movement of movements known as a meta movement, and that's how you change the world. So it's not super ABC, but it's what we're working on and starting to take off as we speak right now. So with that, before we get into the next segment, Liz, I'll give you some speech and we'll do one last reset and then we'll go to the next segment.
Perfect. Yeah, so much of this is just about better empowering you, right? That's who you vote for, absolutely your choice. How you're able to access the merits of who you vote for, that's the tricky part that we're talking about. Where do you find the conflicts of interest? How do you know if they're taking big money? How do you know their voting history, right? All of that is just scattered across the internet. And hopefully you find it, and hopefully it makes sense to you, and hopefully you're able to digest it. But what if all of that was so much easier? You can find your candidates, find their history, right? And just have a better opinion, a better knowledge of who, when you step into that booth and you give power to someone by ticking off their name, we want you to be really satisfied and really represented after you tick their name and you give them that power. Gosh, don't they owe you something back? Don't they owe you representation? Don't they owe you, the campaign promises that got them that vote? And that's what we're saying. That loop of honesty, that loop of accountability, that loop of representation is simply broken in today's system. And that's what we're talking about. Democracy going down the drain for a long time. A lot of us have the language to talk about what's broken. At Fink, we're trying to build a language and a systemic standard of what to do. After we identify how rigged and broken the system is, how do we make democracy accessible, digestible, and gosh, a democracy again? That's what we're talking about. With that, I'll pass it back to Travis.
Yeah, cool. So just kind of summarizing how we plan to get there. We've been talking about this line a lot. So it's about communication infrastructure is the biggest one. So again, by connecting to have every candidate seen, every citizen heard, and every journalist free to speak, that alone just completely starts shifting the whole system. Again, the biggest cost for whether you're looking at small business versus big business, whether you're looking at grassroots candidates versus establishment candidates, whether you're talking about independent media versus establishment media, it's basically two the same thing. It's up versus down. It's like, a small business, they don't have the money that the big business has to market their products. So there could be wonderful small businesses in the world, but they don't have the money to have that loud enough voice for enough people to hear them. So then they have this disadvantage. Same thing with grassroots candidates, same thing with independent media, that there's some great people out there, and it's that chicken or the egg. Because they're small size, they don't have the marketing power to become like nationally accredited. So by building a unifying communication system that connects everyone into one system, and it's not like everyone gets to just rise to the top with their voice. No, it's going to be like, healthy democratic algorithms of like, if America likes this politician, they start rising in the ranks in this system. And if people like the independent media person, they're getting good scores. They're getting checks off that their information is objective, that it's honest, that it's nonpartisan. That's going to rise them higher to the top. So, so we're going to build healthy algorithms, not the ones like, like Facebook connects it based on who's causing the most drama and problems. It's going to be built on the right kind of things, and that's also something that Think's not doing ourselves. It's something that we're building with America. We're not building these algorithms solo. It's going to be done with y'all. But so that's the communication rails connecting everyone into one infrastructure. Eventually it's going to be digital democracy. Starting now, it's more of just over social media. Anywhere that we start coalescing this information and design, that's where this communication can start. So we're already, building our base on Discord, on TikTok, YouTube. So that's where it's going to start. And then as we build it up to a certain level, then it's going to transfer onto digital democracy. Once we have enough standards of how we want to communicate, collaborate, build out some of these algorithms together, then it evolves into digital democracy. Then 2 is about operational designs. Helping with digital activism, help coordinating, volunteer and nonprofit work these days is still a little behind. They it's about protesting, calling your senator, but in the digital age, things move a lot faster, and you can't I'm going to be in a protest in 3 months. Don't not go. I'm not discouraging that, but things happen a lot faster in the digital age. It's not like it used to be before the digital age. So we're building these systems to that independent media, grassroots candidates, everyone that's not part of the status quo, everyone that's not part of the establishment, can amplify each other's efforts. And, so for example, grassroots politicians, they don't get media attention from the establishment media. So we're trying to build a network of independent media that will be the voice that the establishment media refuses to be for these people. And, so we're building this network that politicians, grassroots movements and organizations, independent media can all amplify one another's efforts. And again, they could be Republican efforts, Democrat efforts, third-party efforts. We're not here to distinguish one from the other. Left versus right, that's not what we're about. We're neutral. That's for America to decide where they land, where you guys land on those issues. We're talking about the infrastructure. We're talking about you actually being represented. It's, if America decides that the XYZ is the right healthcare policy, then I'm fine. As long as America decides it and not 1% of us decides it, that's what Think cares about. So building these systems that we could help amplify one another, help lift each other's grassroots efforts. So you're independent media and you're going to say, oh, we're going to do a debate with these grassroots candidates so you hear their voice more often. And we're going to actually give you the honest truth of what's going on. And here are some organizations that we talk to that are really nice, that are really good and align with our values. And it's not like everyone's going to work with everyone, not at all. We're going to be organizing these things in what we call action clusters. So it's based not on your political lens of Democrat, Republican, not on the label, but on specific action clusters. So, if you want single payer healthcare, for example, then you could find the right independent media that aligns that way, the politicians that align that way, citizens that align that way. They'll all be in one cluster. If you want just a private healthcare system with better competition, that's a separate action cluster. So every policy stance is its own cluster. And so what that does is it softens the divide of left versus right. It kind of allows every citizen to decide where they stand on each issue. You might agree with Democrats on some social issues, and then you might agree with Republicans on some other issues. Humans are complex. You can't just put us, you either agree to 100% of this or 100% of that. That's not how humanity works. So we want to build a system where you can pick and choose where you stand. So that's called action clusters. That'll be built into this meta movement as well. So that'll help with the collaboration, the alignment. It helps move people from just fighting over things to moving towards solutions and actions. And again, it's not our solutions. Our solution is just infrastructure and communication and just interconnecting people. But you guys are the ones with healthcare solutions and social justice answers. And, every issue, there's tons of answers out there, and they're buried by the establishment. And yes, we're going to fight over them in general, but if we had a healthy democracy, then we would sort out our differences based on the consensus, and ultimately the will of the majority would win. But the system works. The legislative system works as designed. The House of Representatives, Senate, there's different districts, every state has representation. That part of it works. It's the influence that tricks us into false choices. That's what we're replacing as Fink. We want to build a system that replaces the influence of just the 1% influencing you, saying that, oh, these are your only two choices, and you're either in this box or you're in that box, and that side's the evil one, and we're the good guys. We're moving you away from that and plugging you into a system that every candidate, every journalist, every citizen can get involved, so that the non 1%, the 99% can collaborate and find their commonalities and all that good stuff. So that's what we envision. That's what we're doing now. Some of the tech side of this stuff is going to take some time, but the framing and the conceptual, the way to separate, like how to take action on all this is all fleshed out at this stage. Liz, I'm going to go to you. I have one more segment, and then we'll close up after that.
Awesome. And with all of that, I put it in the chat, but it might have got a little buried. Independent journalists, grassroots movements, quality candidates that, aren't bought out. All of them have the same problem. It's exposure, ability to get, populate your Facebook, populate the billboard, populate your TV, right? So if all of these organizations and people have the same uphill battle, doesn't it just make sense to apply, one solution, one standard, one opportunity that solves all their problems? Interconnectedness, ease of communication, and just digestible politics. That should be a regular thing in a democracy, and it's simply not. We're saying all of these broken pieces are a shared pain in our sides for so many of us. Gosh, if we just had better infrastructure to uplift quality voices, right? Merit over money, like Travis was saying, action clusters where we do align rather than just the infighting that leads nowhere. So I just wanted to verbalize that many of the organizations and the candidates that are simply buried by the establishment, if they all could plug into one digital embodiment of democracy that helps them be exposed, helps them connect to voters, and really shows representation, that's what we're building, right? A common standard, a common solution to these seemingly individual problems, but if you zoom out a bit, it's a shared burden that they all face, and that's what we're building a solution to. Back to you, Travis.
Yeah, totally. So kind of getting towards the conclusion here. So we have this pretty elaborate system. So ultimately, a lot of it's about this pooling the reach is another way to say it. Like, connecting these candidates, the candidates, the independent media, the movements. Because one thing I always argue sometimes when I'm talking to citizens, they'll say, well, no, there's no good politicians. If you become a politician, you're ultimately you're going to be corrupt. And it's like, well, that's not true. There's millions and millions of great candidates. They're just, their voices get buried. You just never hear of them because they're not on the mainstream media. They don't have the money to get their voice to your door. To some extent they're correct, because it's the ones that sell out are the ones that are able to win, and that's by the design of how politics has de-evolved. But there's plenty to run. There's plenty of people that would be more than happy to have a lifelong career of a non-corrupt politician that does not need to sell out. It was crazy. A couple months ago, I think it was I forget if it was the House or the Senate. It was a bipartisan bill, some Democrats, some Republicans, that wanted to put a bill that got rid of insider trading in Washington. And of course, it did not vote yes. You know, the establishment absolutely wants to keep getting rich off of themselves. But one of the candidates, one of the politicians, the bad ones, was on TV, and he's saying like, well, if we couldn't make money off of being in Congress, then no one would run for Congress. Like, no, people like you wouldn't run for Congress, and that would be amazing. So get the hell out. Let's have somebody that's not there to just totally enrich themselves. You know, I mean, you know, senator's salary is I don't have the exact number offhand. It's at least 225,000 a year, 250. It's like around almost $250,000. Is a senator. House is cheaper, I'm sure, but that's enough money that you don't need bribes on top of that. You know, if like, damn, I'll offer me 200K a year salary, and you have the prestige of being a politician, all this stuff. There's plenty of people that would want to be a politician, not even just for that money, but just for the common good of what you would be doing. So, you know, the people that are in are just so set on like, well, this is how it works. You get us corrupt people like us that are just power hungry, and that's how you get incentivized to run for Congress. It's like, no, there's plenty of people that would be more than happy to take just the salary without selling their soul to make more money, and they could just do the job the right way. So again, there's millions and millions of people every year running that are trying to do this. I mean, most of the third parties and people, there's millions of people every year in third parties that are running. They know they're not going to win, but they do it to just move the needle a little bit one way, spread awareness in a certain thing, and then, you know, there's a rare occasion when one of them wins in a lower level office. So the people are there. It's just a matter of Americans knowing they exist, and so that's really what this boils down to. Like we said early in the beginning of this episode, like, think of us as like a civic utility company, that we're here to plug everyone into democracy. That, you know, imagine democracy is this like cloud, and now that we're at the digital age, you can digitize the cloud that is America's democracy. And then just interconnecting, you know, every candidate, every citizen, every journalist, streamline the process. This is who's running. This is who has conflicts of interest. You know, it's in a lot of ways, it's actually very easy. It's really more of the selling this idea and then spreading the awareness is the battle, is just this earlier stage. Once this really builds momentum, it's not going to stop. Because again, like, everything we're building this off of is what 85% of Americans want. So it's like everyone, like, most people want what we're offering. They just don't know it exists yet. And, you know, that's part of why we're here. So with that, we're going to head towards our conclusion here. So, you know, definitely you could visit our website, futureis.org. We outline a lot more about our mission. There's a blueprint button at the very top, gives you like a very light skeleton of the breakdown. There's a lot of information on there. Our homepage especially. But then there's also YouTube has the most of our videos, long form and short form videos explaining our solutions. Again, we have tons. Like, this is the answer. This is what can solve it, because it doesn't break us up on boundaries of left versus right. You could still decide. It doesn't change what you believe in. It just changes how you're going to get to your answers, basically. So, you know, visit our website, and then our socials are also futureis.org. So on socials, it's all one word, at futureis.org, versus a website is futureis.org. But yeah, we're spreading more awareness as we go. Yeah, so check us out. The website updated, got new videos. We're hitting some really good new milestones lately. Liz, want to give some final words?
Absolutely. Like Harry said, you know, wow, 11,000 likes. Thank you guys for that effort. I've seen in this live alone, we've gotten a couple more followers, and simple things like that. Hitting that subscribe button, shows that, you know, we're delivering what resonates with you guys, but also it means so much to a small growing organization like Fink. So if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 1,000. We're over halfway there, and we're just so thrilled to keep sharing this with you guys. But before we finally end, I just want to Just again, reiterate, where else can certain ideas grow? Where else do quality candidates who don't sell out to the system, where can they find their footing? How do they have access to voters like you? And how do you as a voter have access to them, right? So all of these different quality candidates, finding out what these conflicts of interest are for people you're voting for, that's scattered across the internet. That's an uphill battle. And just finding where we overlap and moving the needle on policy rather than just larger party approved policy, right? So what matters to you and how do you move that needle forward is the action cluster we were talking about. But I would hope that people leave this with just, wow, democracy can be better. I'm not happy with democracy. I don't know if you are, but there's a better way forward. And that's what Fink is all about. Finding ways to build a common digital infrastructure where all of these things can be in one place, finding language that addresses the rigged nature of democracy, and just making representation in actual parts of US politics. Because it's, feel free to Google it, you are not being represented. The establishment's goals, establishment's narratives are recycled every election system, and we are left out in the cold. So what do we do about that? Gosh, keep logging into Fink's lives, hit that subscribe, and just feel free to DM us or comment on something. We love talking to you guys. We're very friendly people, and we'd love to talk more about these solutions with you guys. Yeah, that's all I have. And just a reminder, our social handle is futureis.org. And like Travis said, check out our cool new website, futureis.org. Check out the videos. I'll pass it back to Travis with that.
Cool. Yep. So with that, we'll close up for the day. So this is our last episode for this week. So you could tune in next week, Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. 2 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, and that's 11 a.m. Pacific. So that'll be when we're on again. We weren't able to do yesterday's episode, normally 3 a week. We do it every Tuesday, Wednesday, and usually Thursday. Thursday is more of our wild card, but always Tuesday and Wednesday, and it's either Thursday and Friday. But check out us, and also all our videos are on YouTube as well now. All in the last week or so, every live is on YouTube, so you can check that out as well. So thank you y'all for sharing and being here. And yeah, we will catch you next time. Live.